I will release generational anointing. Just as I anointed Aaron and his sons after him, so you have been anointed and consecrated, you and your children, for service to me. I am raising you up a faithful priest, and you will do according to what is in my heart and mind for you to do. I will be your tower of salvation and will show my mercy to you. I will bless your children. Have faith in me for what I will do in them and through them in the future. I will cover your children with the blood of Yeshua, and the angel of death will not touch them but pass over. Because of my anointing on your life, I will grant all your future generations great deliverance and mercy. We believe that we have been anointed by God just as he anointed our fathers, that we may minister unto God in our ministry gifting, and that our families may be an everlasting priesthood throughout our generations. We offer you our children and declare them to be yours. In faith, we receive your promises for our lives and for theirs. Amen. I have revealed my covenant plan. When my son established my kingdom upon the earth, he declared that it would reach to all peoples, Jew and Gentile alike. My kingdom is for all, and it will rebuild and establish my tabernacle among mankind, so that all may seek me and enter in. My kingdom is a new covenant body, my church. It will fill my people with everlasting joy and will be a covenant of peace. My child, I have called you into the kingdom and clothed you in my righteousness through my Son. Let my righteousness, peace, and joy increase in your life and spread through all your generations. Lord, may we be able to say, we have proclaimed glad tidings of righteousness in the great congregation. Behold, we will not restrain our lips. O Lord, you know we have not hidden your righteousness within our hearts. We have spoken of your faithfulness and your salvation. We have not concealed your loving kindness and your truth from the people who need to be brought into your kingdom. Amen.
Shabbat Shalom. I'll be reading portion summary and this week in Bible history. The fourth reading from the book of Genesis is named Vayera. It means, and he appeared, because the first story describes how the Lord appeared to Abraham one day as he sat outside his tent. Section Vayera continues with the series of tests of faith for Abraham, concluding in one great and final trial. This week in Bible history, Yitzhak Rabin, Hashavan 12, 1995. Yitzhak Rabin, commander-in-chief of the IDF during the Six-Day War and later Prime Minister of Israel, was assassinated on this day in 5756, 1995. Passing of Metyahu, Hashavan 15, 139 BCE. In the 2nd century before the Common Era, the Holy Land was ruled by the Seleucids, Syrian Greeks, who, with the collaboration of the Jewish Hellenists, introduced pagan idols into the Holy Temple and set about to forcibly Hellenize the people of Israel. Metyahu, the son of the high priest Yochanan, was already an old man when he picked up the sword and raised the flag of a revolt in the village of Modin in the Judean hills. Many rallied under his cry, "Who that is for God, come with me," and resisted and battled the Greeks from their mountain hideouts. After heading the revolt for 1 year, Metyahu died on the 15th of Hashavan of the year 3622 from creation, 139 BCE. His 5 sons, the Maccabees, Judah, Jochanan, Shimon, Eleazar, and Yochatan, carried on the battle to their eventual victory, celebrated each year since by Jews the world over with the festival of Hanukkah. Kristallnacht, Hashavan 15, 1938. On this night in 1938 and continuing into the next day, November 9th on the secular calendar, the Nazi coordinated vicious pogroms against the Jewish community of Germany. Encouraged by their leaders, rioters attacked and beat Jewish residents, burned and destroyed 267 synagogues, vandalized 7,500 Jewish businesses, and ransacked countless Jewish cemeteries, hospitals, schools, and homes, while police and firefighters stood by. 91 Jews were killed and 20,000 others were deported to concentration camps. These pogroms, which collectively came to be known as Kristallnacht, Night of Broken Glasses, referring to the thousands of windows that were broken, were a turning point after which Nazi anti-Jewish policy intensified. Great Flood begins. Hashavan 17, 2105 BCE. The rain began to fall on the 17th of Hashavan of the year 1656 from creation, 2105, flooding the earth and rising above the highest fountains. Only Noah and his family survived in the ark built to that end by divine command, and a pair of each animal species who entered with him into the ark. Assassination of Meir Kahane, Hashavan 18, 1990 CE. Born in 1932, Meir Kahane was a controversial American-Israeli rabbi and activist. In 1968, he founded the Jewish Defense League in New York. With the motto of "Never Again," the stated goal of the organization was to protect Jews from anti-Semitism in all forms. In 1971, he moved his family to Israel, founding the Kahak political party, and he was elected to Knesset in 1984. The Kahak party was later outlawed in Israel. In 1990, after concluding a speech in the Manhattan Hotel, Kahane was fatally shot by an Egyptian-born terrorist. While strangely acquitted of the murder, El Sayed Nosar was later convicted in relation to the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. Pittsburgh Tree of Life Massacre, Hashavan 18, 5779, 2018 CE. On Shabbat morning, Hashavan 18, 5779, October 27, 2018, Pittsburgh peaceful Jewish enclave of Squirrel Hill was shattered by gunshots as a crazed anti-Semite attacked worshiper at the Tree of Life congregation, killing 11. It was the deadliest attack on Jews on American soil. Reeling from the pain, Pittsburghers struggled to make sense of the tragedy that had befallen their city, and people around the world respond with an outpouring of love, support, mitzvah, and faith. Thank you, God.
I wanted to say something about that. There is a common theme in everything that you read with this week in Bible history, and it has to deal with upheavals. Okay, you notice that it has to be with drastic upheavals. Okay, either on a worldwide, things that affect a worldwide basis, or things that affect a nation. Okay, so this is a sign of the times that we are in. I am very excited about today's lesson because it's kept me up really since Thursday. Okay, since Thursday. And the theme, once again, the days of Lot and Noah. Okay, maybe we'll finish it today if I can get all of this out of my system once and for all. Okay, but I don't want to take any more time because I'm gonna take it on the back end. I think next in the schedule is Leroy. Okay, is Leroy. And let me ask you something. Did Grace or Miriam read? Okay, good. I'm going to read their portions. Oh, Hermine didn't either? Oh, okay, okay. Grace and Miriam. Okay, okay. Yes, I'm going to read their portion because it goes to with what it is I'm going to be teaching today. So, okay, Leroy.
Okay, I'll be brief.
Oh, no. Take your time. Take your time. No, I don't let me say that. Okay. Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Happy Sabbath, Israel. The yoke of the kingdom. Judaism speaks of the following two yokes: the yoke of the kingdom and the yoke of the Torah. The yoke of the kingdom is symbolized by Shechem, and the yoke of the Torah is symbolized by Moreh. These two yokes are also represented in the first text of the Shema confessions. In the first Shema text, Deuteronomy 6:4-9, it is written, "Hear, O Israel, Yahweh your God, Yahweh is one. And thou shalt love Yahweh thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy might. And these words which I command thee this day shall be upon thy heart, and that thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and shalt talk of them when thou sit in thy house, and when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up. And thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thy hand, and they shall be frontlets between thine eyes. And thou shalt write them upon the doorposts of thy house and upon thy gates." So that when I first read that, it brought something to my mind. I was like, what would life be if we love Yahweh with all of our heart, soul, and might? Life would be so different, because I always say we shouldn't get caught up in routine, and sometimes we do. It's, some things are just natural human behavior, but Yahweh wants us to separate that routine for him for total commitment. So he wants us to love him with everything that we have. Now, even 1 John 5:3 tell us what? If we love the Lord, keep his commandments. He says commandments is not grievous. And this is why this word is telling us when we lie down, when we rise up. So when we teach our children this word, it won't be a battle for them like it is for us. Because oftentimes we lived a life of sin, did whatever we wanted to do, got in our 20s and 30s or whatever. Then we came to the Lord. So now we still struggling with all of these sins that you'd accumulated throughout your life and battling all of these different spirits. But the Lord said we teach our children diligently when we go in the house, outside of the house. This is all day. And when we lie down, when we rise up, he said, bind them for a sign upon thy hand, and there shall be frontlets between our eyes. So now if they're going to be frontlets between our eyes, he's saying we need to let this word direct us in every part of our life. So when we read this word and we see what our forefathers went through, that is our understanding. That is our frontlet between our eyes. So we don't have to be discouraged. We can understand, look, what I'm going through is already written. There's nothing new under the sun. So I can look in these scriptures and see what my God did for this person, that person, whatever your situation may be, and understand how to deal with it. That's what it's for. It's for direction, instructions. Now, this text represents the yoke of the kingdom, which means personally confessing that Yahweh is your only God. This is why this passage is written in the singular form: thou, thy, and so on. Love for Yahweh is expressed by obedience to his commandments. There we go. Shechem then brings us to Moreh, which represents the Torah. Now the second yoke, the yoke of the Torah, is found in Deuteronomy 11:13-21, where it is written, "And it shall come to pass, if ye," that's plural, "shall hearken diligently unto my commandments, which I command you this day," plural again, "to love Yahweh your God, and to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul, that I would give you the rain of the land in its season, so that I would give the rain of your land in its season, the former rain and the later rain, that thou mayest gather in corn, and thou be satisfied. I'm excuse me, I'm reading. Forgive me, y'all. Thou shalt eat and be satisfied. Take heed to yourselves, lest your heart be deceived, and ye turn aside and serve other gods and worship them. So now here we go again. The Lord has given us a conditional contract here. Now he's saying if we keep his commandments, what he's going to do for us. Now we have to get our mind out of the routine religious mindset, because sometimes we often think that we don't have to put forth a certain amount of effort because God said he's going to do certain things for us. Now here, he's saying we're going to gather in corn, wine, and grain, right? So we know it takes work to get that corn planted and for it to grow, to do things in its proper season. So which means we have to do our part. Now he's saying he's going to give the former rain and the later rain. Now this is what he's talking to Israel about. He's like, look, all you have to do is keep my commandments and do what you're supposed to do. Faith without works is dead. So put forth your efforts to do everything within your power, and I'm going to bless you. Now, oftentimes, Yahweh put us in situations to where our obedience is going to reflect our elevation. It's going to reflect our way of life. Because if you look at the children of Israel, when they was in Egypt, we know he's talking about the former rain and the later rain. We know when they was in Egypt, they got the water through the Nile River. You know, they depended on that as their water source. Now, oftentimes when we think about Israel and Egypt, we always thinking about bondage. But they wasn't always in bondage in Egypt.
That's right.
They lived very well. They were fruitful and multiplying. So that's where jealousy came in.
Mm-hmm.
Man, look, God blessing these people like he say he is. Look at the Abrahamic promises. They being fruitful and multiplying and living good. We have to stop this. So Pharaoh didn't agree with that. But now he took them from Egypt to another land that they wasn't accustomed to. So now, what are you going to depend on for the increase of your work? Obedience. So now, due to your obedience, he said he's going to give you the former rain and the later rain. So oftentimes you see, like I said, God always curse the earth when he's upset. So due to the disobedience, he'll cause a drought. So he's showing us by our obedience that he will bless us as he promised. Now take heed for yourself, like he said, lest your heart be deceived, and ye turn aside and serve other gods and worship them. And the anger of Yahweh be kindled against you, and he shut up the heaven. You see that? Shutting up the heaven. So that there shall be no rain, and the ground shall not yield her fruit. And ye shall perish quickly from off the good land which Yahweh giveth you. That's plural. Therefore shall ye lay up these my words in your heart, plural, and in your soul. Now here we go again. And ye shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be frontlets between your eyes. And ye, plural, shall teach them your children, talking of them when thou sittest in thy house, and when thou walkest by the way, and when thou liest down, and when thou risest up. And thou shalt write them upon the doorposts of thy house and upon thy gates, that your days may be multiplied. So everything that we can possibly want and desire, the plan is already in place. All we have to do is follow the roadmap. In the days of your children, upon the land which Yahweh swore to your fathers to give them, as the days of the heavens above the earth. And we know Yahweh don't break no promises. Mm-hmm. In this text, which speaks of the yoke of the Torah, we see how the pronouns vary from plural to singular, back and forth. The text, the first yoke, the yoke of the kingdom, is written in a personal way. But in this text, we see how the pronouns have the plural form. In the first verses, and then later take on a singular form in verse 14, and then go back to the plural form in verses 16 through 19. They take the singular form in verses 19 through 20, and in the end, they go back to the plural form in verse 21. This means that the yoke of the Torah teaches us to live our personal lives in obedience in relation to the people of Yahweh. It is therefore not enough to live alone before Yahweh. Everyone needs to be a part of a whole, and that is exactly what the Torah works in our lives. You cannot love Yahweh and hate your brother. It is impossible, because love for Yahweh forces you to love your neighbor first and foremost, your closest ones, and then also those that are beyond the family sphere. In Ephesians 4, 1 through 6, it is written, I therefore, a prisoner of the Lord, beseech you to walk worthily of the calling with which you have been called, with lowliness and gentleness, with patience, forbearing one another in love, making every effort to watch over the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. There is only one body and one Spirit, just as also you were called in one hope of your calling, one Lord, one faith, one immersion, and one God and Father of all, who is over all and through all in all. So now this is the Lord telling us how to treat each other. Now we understand that we all come from different backgrounds. You know, it's multi-cultural environment. Some of us came from, you know, rugged, maybe in poverty, in the streets, in a life of crime, whatever the case may be. So we're going to have different personalities. So the Lord's saying, look, I understand that, but I want you all to love each other as one. You all treat each other the same. There need to be no special treatment among each other. Sometimes people can come into your congregation, especially back in the church, I remember, some people you don't want to deal with. You know, some personalities you're like, ooh, this person, come, let me get away from this person. But the Lord understand that we were all called out of sin. So we have a lot of different personalities and things that each other may not like. But he's saying, you love that person because the world hated Christ. They're going to hate us. So we understand while we out in the world, we're going to go through a lot of different adversities. You understand we're going to go through stress on the job. We're going to have all kind of weight on our shoulders. That's why he said when we come together, it need to be nothing but love and unity. We need to work together. Now in Philippians 2, 1 through 4, it is written, if therefore there is any comfort in Messiah, if there is any consolation in love, if there is any in fellowship of the Spirit, if any inward parts and compassion, fulfill my joy by being of the same understanding, having the same love. See, treat each other of one soul, understanding one thing. Do nothing from selfishness or vainglory, but in humility of mind, let each of you regard one another as more important than himself. Do you treat anybody more important than yourself? So do not look out for your own interests, but also for those of others. And that's part of the kingdom. That's why the nation, we always supposed to uplift each other and support one another. That's why the Lord said he never seen his people lacking. Because when we do what we're supposed to do, we're going to receive those blessings in our lives, and we're supposed to help each other. We're not supposed to know somebody else is struggling and just say, I'll pray for you. Yeah, we're supposed to help and lift that brother, that sister up. Now in Colossians 1, 3 through 4, and 3, 12 through 15, it is written, we give thanks to God, the Father of our Adon, Yeshua, the Messiah, always praying for you, having heard of your faith in Messiah, Yeshua, and the love which you have for all the consecrated. Put on then, as elect ones of God, consecrated and beloved, clothe your inward parts with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience, bearing with one another, see that? Bearing with one another, and forgiving one another. Whoever has a grievance against anyone, just as Adonai forgave you, so also should you. And above all these things, put on love, which the bond of unity that has been brought to the goal. And let the peace of Messiah rule in your heart, to which indeed you were called in one body, and be thankful. So this is talking about your brother, your spiritual brother and sister, your people that's in the fold. Don't get out there and get abused and let people run all over you and say, oh, God just said you're supposed to love and forgive them. Because Yahweh is a righteous judge, and I'm quite sure he don't expect for you to go out and be used and abused and mistreated and just smile and say, I love you, I forgive you. Let's not take that out of context. And that is really a slave mentality that's been taught from a long time ago to make people think they can continually accept abuse and just to say I love you is being a good Christian. That is not how it works. In First Thessalonians 4, 9 through 10, it is written, "But concerning the love of the brethren, you have no need of my writing to you, for you yourselves are taught by God to love one another, and indeed you do love all the brethren who are all in Macedonia. But we exhort you, brethren, to abound still more." In 1 Peter 4 and 8, it is written, "Above all, hold earnestly in your love for one another, because love covers a multitude of sins." In John 15, 12 through 13, it is written, "This is my commandment, that you love one another, just as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, that one lay down his life for his friends." All these texts show us the importance of having a right relationship with the people of God, who are his family and his temple, his dwelling place. It is wonderful to have a salvation experience where one confesses the yoke of the kingdom and the yoke of the Torah. That experience changes our personal lives, but there's more. The more we grow in the knowledge of Yahweh through his Torah, as it is revealed through Moses and our Rabbi Yeshua, the more we enter into a new dimension in our spiritual life. So that let us know right there, there's different levels to this spiritual life. That dimension consists of thinking as a group, collectively. And we move from Shechem to Moreh to Beit El, God's family. On the one hand, it is true that we have a personal responsibility for our own lives before Yahweh. Each one of us will be judged by his own thoughts, words, and deeds. But we were not created to be islands spread out in a lake, but rather members of one body, one whole, one big family, the great family of the children of Abraham with Jews and non-Jews. Genesis 12 and 8. He left that place, went to the hill east of Beit El, and pitched his tent. With Beit El to the west and Ai to the east, he built an altar there and called on the name of Yahweh. Ai means a pile of ruins. Beit El means God's house. A pile of ruins is not a house. Abram camped between Beit El and Ai. Each morning when he came out of his tent, he had Ai in the front of him and Beit El behind his back, because the entrance of the tent is always towards the east. To be able to see God's house, Beit El, he had to turn his back to the pile of stones, Ai. In the same way, we must choose between being stones alone, even though they are in one pile, and a house where there is order. In order to be pieces of a house, the stones have to go through a process of correction to become living stones, which means that they are hewn, adjusted, and inserted into certain places in the building. You can then no longer do what seems right to you or whatever you feel like. There are builders who have been appointed to build the house of the Almighty in different places. They work hard so that every stone is adjusted and placed in the right place. The time for being a spiritual lone rider is now over. It is time to be part of a house, a body, and to once and for all be united with our brothers and sisters. Shabbat Shalom.
If anything, unity is the key word, okay, for today. You know, we've got to be restored to a unified nation, unified church. If we are one body, okay, as far as I know, Yeshua doesn't have a twin. Okay, there are not two Yeshuas running out there. We are one body. And it's time for us, if we are one nation under God, that we define who that God is by his word and become one body again. A house or nation divided will not stand. It will fall. Okay, it will fall. When we talk about all the controversy behind the flag, let's listen to this for a minute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, not the divided states of the America, not the left or right states of the America, not the red or blue states of America. It is the United States of America. And if that flag is supposed to represent united, where is the flag for the divided? You understand what I'm saying? Okay, with that. So if our flag represents the united, it is time for us to be united and to the republic for which it stands. Okay, the republic is supposed to stand for a United States where we are citizens of the United States first. Okay, God first, one nation under God. So God first, American citizens. Okay, next, if we're talking about that, of course, family is always, in between there, but we're talking about politically God first because we say we're one nation under God. Then we are supposed to be citizens first, okay, with liberty and justice for all. If there is no liberty and justice for all, if there is no united, why are we having such controversy over how people handle that flag? You understand what I'm saying? Because it is not right now representing what it originally was supposed to. Liberty and justice for all means exactly that, liberty and justice for all. Whether you are black, white, Hispanic, Asian, whether you are Democratic or Republican, liberty and justice for all means all citizens here have equal rights. Okay, the part of the problem is that some people want to have more equal rights than others, and that's a reality. What we have seen, okay, is the fact that worldwide people have seen the inequity. It is time for us to heal and get to God. I want to say get back to God, but no, get to God, period. And that's the one thing the Lord has been impressing upon me, that we need to get out here and really, really teach this Torah, because a lot of the reasons why we see things happening the way they are is because people don't understand the Torah. This is what the Bible says about your behavior. And just like you were reading, Leroy, the reason that I put all of those, the plural and the singular in there, so that in that of the yoke of the kingdom for Deuteronomy chapter 11, so that you can see it is as if Yahweh was saying, I'm talking to you personally. I'm talking to all of you together. You understand? So there is a personal accountability. There is a collective accountability also. And God, okay, holds us accountable for both. All right. The people in the world don't know this. The people in the church are supposed to. But right now, we have two bodies of Messiah. We have one called the church. We have those that are Torah observant. God only has one bride. And this is the time where people need to decide what side they're going to be on. Okay. As for us and our house, we shall serve Yahweh. Okay. Yahweh, who has become our savior, you call him Yeshua. You understand what I'm saying? There is only one law of the kingdom, all right? And that was defined by Yeshua at Mount Sinai. So we choose to take his yoke upon us because his yoke is easy and his burden is light. And it is time for us to take this word out on a worldwide basis, which we have been, okay, pretty much doing. But it is time for us to go and proclaim the yoke of the kingdom, okay, which is the Torah. One nation under God, indivisible. How about this? One earth under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That is the message of the Torah. The Torah is the great equalizer, in that we are all equal under God. Okay? All right, Ed.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Ishmael mocked Isaac. Genesis 21:9. Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, whom she bore to Abraham, mocking instead of developing a brotherly love. He started despising the little one and even tormenting him. As a matter of a timeline, if you go to Genesis 16:15, Abraham is approximately 86 years old when Ishmael is born. Reading on in Genesis 21:5, Abraham is 100 years old when Isaac is born. So during the subtraction, that means Ishmael is 14 years old when Isaac is born. So there's an age difference there between the older brother and the younger brother. So this 14-year-old is mocking pretty much an infant, a baby, right? So reading further, we know that as it is written in Genesis 4:29, but at that time he who was born according to the flesh persecuted him who was born according to the spirit, as it is also at the present. The Midrash says that Ishmael shot arrows at his brother and pretended that he was hunting. Later on, he grew to be a skillful archer. So we see in Genesis 17 that Abraham's name is changed to Abraham. And verse 19, he says, Sarah, your son shall bear you a son. He says, at this time. So at this time, meaning a year later. So a year later, when Abraham is 99, he has Isaac. So reading further, we read that the root of the word that is translated sport is zakak, which means laugh. It is the same root that is found in the name Isaac. This word is also used in other texts with a sexual implication, as for an instance in Genesis 26:8, where it is written, it happened when he had been there a long time that Abimelech, king of the Philistines, looked out the window and saw, and behold, Isaac was caressing a zakak, Rebekah, his wife. Now that caressing that zakak there is not the same as laughing. So that was Isaac, his wife, who he was caressing in an intimate way. Reading on further, Genesis 39:14, it is written that she called unto the men of her house and spoke unto them, saying, see, he has brought into us a Hebrew to Zakak, to mark us. He came into the lie with me, and I cried out with a loud voice. We know that's the story with Joseph. The word is also used in connection with idolatry in Exodus 32:6, where it is written, and they rose up early in the morrow and offered ascension offerings and brought peace offerings. And the people sat down to eat and drink and rose to make merry. Zakak. Now we know when they rose to make merry after eating and drinking, they were not laughing. They were, as T.D. Jakes said, they were dropping it like it was hot. So they had clothes off and they were drunk, and I'll let you figure out the rest of it. It could therefore be possible that what Ishmael did to Isaac was a mixture of violence, sex, and idolatry. Which are three of the gravest sins? When Sarah saw this, she was offended. So when Sarah, the mother, sees this teenager doing whatever with her son, she was very much offended. This type of influence was not good for her son. Besides, he also ran the risk of being killed in an accident. So if the older brother, 14 years older at least, is shooting arrows at the little boy, that's not a good situation. According to Strong's H6711, zakak, it means to laugh outright, in merriment or in scorn. By implication, to sport, to laugh at, to mock, to jest, to make sport of. Now, if we read in Genesis 21, we will see in verses 21 through 15, so when the child grew and was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast the same day that Isaac was weaned. So we can read other scriptures in 1 Samuel 1:21 to 23. We see that Hannah nurses Samuel until approximately 3 years old. We read in there that Hannah missed approximately two cycles of the feast. So we see in biblical times, it seems a child is weaned at around 3 years old. So once again, we have Ishmael, at around 16 or 17 years old. So once again, we have that big age difference between the two brothers, one mocking the other. So in Genesis 21:9, we see that Ishmael is approximately 17 years old. Ishmael's persecution of Isaac is counted by some to be the beginning of the 400 years found in Genesis 15:3. So once again, we can see that therefore it's possible that Ishmael did to Isaac a mixture of violence, sex, and adultery, which are three of the gravest sins. Nevertheless, we know for sure that the mother sees this and she goes to her husband and she says in verse 21-29, Genesis 21:10, wherefore she says unto Abram, cast out this bondwoman and her son, for the son of the bondwoman shall not be heir with my son, even with Isaac. This word was inspired by Sarah's Yetzer Hara. Her evil was not inspired by her Yetzer Hara, evil inclination of the flesh, but by the Ruach HaKodesh, the prophetic spirit. Later on, Yahweh confirmed her words and commanded Abraham to do according to all that Sarah had said to him. Now, put yourself in Abraham's situation here. He has a young son, teenage son, 16, 17 years old, who's growing up to become a young man, and all of a sudden his wife comes to him and says, get rid of him and her mother, put them out. So we're told in the Bible that the woman is supposed to be submitted to the man and quiet. However, if you read further, God talks to Abraham and says, look, in Genesis 21:12, Look, don't let it be grievous in your sight because of the boy and because of your handmaiden. And all that Sarah says to you, listen to her voice. For from Isaac your seed shall be called. In Hebrew, it does not say that Abraham should listen to Sarah, but to Sarah's voice. The Hebrew word is kol in verse 22, which means voice. In this case, it was not just any voice, but a prophetic voice. Why was it a prophetic voice? Once again, I told you earlier that some people count the persecution of the children of Israel to begin when Ishmael starts to persecute his younger brother. So Ishmael's persecution of Isaac is counted by some to be the beginning of the 400 years, as seen in Genesis 15:13. In Genesis 15:13, we read, know certainly that your descendant will be a stranger in the land that is not theirs, and will serve them, and they will afflict them 400 years. So, today in America, some people get that 400 years and they attach it to the situation with some people in America, and they say it's a 400-year cycle. However, the Bible does not really say a 400-year cycle of slavery in Egypt. If you read further on, we see that Abraham is about 70 years old in Genesis when Terah is called out of the land of Ur, and he goes to Haran. So the journey begins with Terah. So we see Abraham is about 70 when Terah takes them out. So Abraham is about 75 in Genesis 11, 27, 32. So he's about 75 years old and then 25 years later, Isaac is born. So from the time Terah calls him out to the time of Isaac is born, we're talking about a 30-year period. So we have 30 years from Abraham's call to the birth of Isaac's. We have 60 years to the birth of Jacob. We can find that in Genesis 25:26. We also would have Jacob being 130 years old upon his entry into Egypt. So if you take the 30 years from Abraham to Isaac, 60 years to the birth of Jacob, and 130 years to Jacob entering Egypt, we have 220 years. That leaves us with approximately 210 years in Egypt, which would equate to 430 years from the time that Terah leaves. So it's not exactly 400 years, it's about 430. However, you can't just take the biblical history timeline and apply it to a current situation without knowing fully what's going on in the biblical timeline. So nevertheless, reading further, we see where Sarah tells him to get out, kick him out, get rid of the woman and her son, because why? Ishmael will not inherit together with Isaac, though Isaac, the descendants, will be called after Abraham. The Arabs have no right to take for themselves that which belongs to the Jews. If, however, they submit to the plan of Yahweh has for the little brother, the Torah, they will be very blessed, as the prophet Isaiah says in chapter 19 and verse 18 and on. Genesis 21:14. Abraham arises early in the morning and took bread and the bowl of water and gave it to Hagar, putting it on her shoulder and the child, and sent her away, and she departed and strayed into the wilderness of Beersheba. According to Rashi, the word strayed here means that in her heart she returned to the gods of Egypt. Remember, Hagar was Egyptian. Therefore, there was no blessing, and the water ran dry in the leather bottle. Idolatry produces drought. Genesis 21:15. And the water in the bottle was spent, and she cast the child under one of the shrubs. That leads us to believe that it's a little baby. However, with the timeline, we know he's not a little baby. She's not casting a little baby under the shrubs. The teen was over 16 years old. According to Rashi, he was sick, and therefore he had earlier been laying on Hagar's shoulder, according to the Hebrew text in verse 14. Genesis 21:19. And God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water, and she went and filled the bottle with water and gave the lad a drink. If the teen was in mortal danger because of dehydration, why did Hagar take her time and fill the whole leather bottle with water? And Midrash says that it was because she was afraid that the well would disappear just as quickly as it had appeared. The well was there all alone. When we're in a crisis situation, we have problems. I need to go to heaven or down to the depths in order to find the solution. What we need is to have a good relationship with Yahweh so that he can open our eyes in order that we may see the solution that is not far from us. So we should pray always in the crisis, in the situation, that Yahweh opens our eyes to see the solution, which might be very, very near to us. If you're in a crisis right now, open your eyes and see that the solution is right by your side, as is written in 1 Corinthians 10:13. No temptations has taken you except what is human. God is faithful, who will not allow you to be tempted above what you have the power to be done to you. But with the temptation will make an exit also, that you may have the power to bear it. Together with the temptation, he prepares a way out. Barak Yahweh. Blessed be Yahweh. Ishmael, Mark, Isaac. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Brad, can you kind of bring this over a little bit? Thank you. The microphone, because I'm going to be sitting like this. More comfortable. All right. All right. This is, to me, as you were reading this, Ed, one of the saddest stories. Because we look at the Bible, we read it, and we keep on going. But we don't get into the dynamics of what really is going here. Ishmael had his father for 16 years. And all of a sudden, he is rejected and tossed out. Can you understand how him as a young boy would feel? That total rejection by the only father he has known. And even Sarah, for a point in time, had been like a mother to him because he technically was hers under adoption until Isaac was born. And so total rejection of that family. How do you think that child felt? Do you think maybe he went into a depression or something like that? Okay, and anger and everything. And this anger that he feels at that rejection is still being felt today. These things in the DNA go such of a strong emotion to go into the DNA that because of you, I no longer have my father. Even though Yahweh had already told his mother he would be blessed. See, sometimes it's not just about the material things, because Lord knows Arabs over there, they have what? The oil, they have, okay, they're, very rich, okay, land, okay, over there with regards to oil and everything. But that emotional and that spiritual thing, all right, I want you to think about it, all right? Can you imagine that boy going out and saying, this is how your God says I'm supposed to be treated? And how you could see a rejection of the God that put him out in the desert, him and his mother out in the desert. So maybe I'm overly dramatizing, okay, this because the Bible doesn't say that. But let me tell you something, okay? We feel this today. The Bible doesn't have to tell you explicitly how people felt. Like God telling Ezekiel, I'm killing your wife tonight. Not just your wife, but that woman who I know you love. And you can't even mourn. Okay? It's like, or Jeremiah, you're not getting married. Or even Abraham, that son you love? Now, I had to put the other one out. Now I want you to go kill this one. Okay? And you could begin to wonder, have I been hearing from God all along? Okay? But this is where understanding what God's promise and his character is. Because remember in the book of Hebrews, how it says that God had raised up Isaac out of Sarah's dead seed, her dead womb, and Abraham's dead seed. Okay, so Isaac was already one risen from the dead. All right, and Abraham knew that if every promise that you have given me is true, it is not my responsibility to protect this child from the effects of this knife. It is your responsibility. Isaac is your word that is spoken. You understand? That's why, okay, when he says, okay, to his servants and everything, hold on to the donkeys. The lad and I are going up and we will return. He didn't tell them that I'm going up there. God has told me to offer up my son as a burnt offering. Y'all need to be fasting and praying. Okay, fasting and praying. However, our next Torah portion represents Sarah dying. I can imagine if he told Sarah, Okay. And as old as she was, and knowing how long she waited for that child, Abraham, wait a minute, Abraham, you say what? Okay. you, you say what? All right. And here's once again, when God spoke to Abraham at first about him having children, Sarah didn't hear it for herself. So she gives Hagar to him because if God says you're going to have a baby, I know in myself, okay, that I can't have any. So here's Hagar. Okay. Sarah didn't hear God tell Abraham about her son. So can you imagine what she was going through? Because if Sarah heard it, she knew for herself. Like when she heard about her having a baby, next thing you know, she's putting out the bondwoman. Okay, y'all got to go. Okay, at this point. Okay, but can you imagine the stress that woman felt at her age about Abraham taking her only child that she waited all her life? Guess what it was a flashback to? Remember, when they were in Ur of the Chaldees, it was typical for you to offer up your firstborn as a sacrifice to the God you served. You understand? That's why, hey, I thought this God was different. You can imagine what's going through, people's minds. Yes, I am overly dramatizing this again, but let me tell you something. I'm a mother too. And if my husband came to me and said, you taking my child where? Okay, it would have been very difficult in the house. Okay, for a while, it would have been very difficult. But one of the things that you were talking about when God told Abraham, listen to the voice of your wife, not to Sarah. That is the same word that was used in Genesis chapter 3 when Yahweh told Adam, because you listen to the voice of your wife. It's the same word, kol, the voice. Didn't listen to your wife, you listened to the voice of your wife. So sometimes here's what you need to discern who is really speaking. Because remember, Satan used the serpent to speak his voice. You need to discern the voice behind who is speaking. All right. We learn that lesson and we see it in application in the New Testament when Yeshua says to Peter, after Peter says, oh no, these things never happened to you. And what does Yeshua say? Get thee behind me, Satan. All right. So let me ask you something. Do you know how to discern voices? The only way you know how to discern voices is once again through the commandments. What did God say? So in Genesis chapter 3, when Eve says to eat the fruit, the voice was not God because God had told Adam, don't eat it. You understand what I'm saying? However, with Sarah, okay, Sarah heard God's plan for her, Abraham, and Isaac. So she said, God said Ishmael ain't it, baby. He got to go because this promise is through Isaac. And what did God say? Listen to her voice because her voice is speaking what I have already told. So what do you learn? Okay, what do you learn? You learn men very often are not spiritually discerning. Okay, they are not spiritually discerning because if Adam had discerned the spirit behind the voice, he would not have eaten. If Abraham had discerned the voice behind his wife, he would have put Ishmael out without God having to come and tell him. You understand? But see, once again, the role of the woman as the helpmeet was to what? Be able to see evil and deal with it. Okay? So sometimes, okay, men, the problem today is that when you don't know Torah, whose voice are you listening to? Are you listening to the voice of your eyes? Ooh, I like what I see. So whatever she says, I will do. Come on. Men more or less are governed. Come on, guys. You know I'm telling the truth. Men are governed more by their eyes at times, what it is they see. All right, don't stand there with your arms crossed like you rejecting what I'm saying. Where, Brad? Brad, turn on this one over here with his subtle rejection of what Pastor Israel got to say. I know that, okay? I know that, but you know I'm telling the truth. Yeah, men are visual creatures. Okay, Brad was wise and stayed out of it. He left the room. Jenny shaking her head. Okay. You know, but it is true. Men will go by what they see. Okay, very often. When Adam saw Eve, remember, when he saw her, he went, woo-hoo! Bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. This one was made for me. Okay? You know he had to be doing backflips. Oh, so anything Eve said. Hey, what you want to eat tonight? Oh, anything you fix, baby. Here. Come on. He forgot everything God had said when he looking at Eve very seductively with that piece of fruit there. And he just went on, ate, didn't ask her where she got it from. Okay, didn't ask her, how come you fixed this so fast? None of that. Just went on and bit it. Okay, so when you judge with your eyes and not the voice of God, but let me say something to you. People don't know the voice of God today because they don't know his word. Why we stay in the word so much is this word tells you how God talks. He's not going to talk to us any differently than he talked to them in the word of God. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like people say, God said, God said, God said all the time. But you will know based upon his voice in the word. God didn't say that. Okay? I'll get into bobblehead mode in a heartbeat with you when you come to me and God said such and such. And I know what the word says. My ears equate that with when people come to me most times and say, God said, it means that Pastor Israel, I don't care what your opinion is about what it is I'm doing. I'm going to do what I want to do anyway. And so I'm at the point now where before I used to offer up a little wisdom. Now I go in bobblehead mode. I just go ahead. Whatever you say God said for you to do, you go ahead and do it. And then later on, I'll come back and say, so how's that working for you? Okay. How's that working for you? Okay. Because when you know God's purpose and his purpose and will for us is revealed in his word, you will be able to discern clean from unclean, holy from profane, and about his Sabbaths. We listened to the voice of the church about the holy days and did not listen to the voice of God. So we picked that Easter ham. Okay, come on. We did. Because it was wrapped in Yeshua. Come on. We did. But now that we listen to the voice of God, and guess what? You'll understand, your identity today is different than your identity was when you were in the church. Okay, or not in the church, okay? You know, or as a believer, before a believer in Yeshua, your identity is different. Remember, coming out of the flood, God gives certain commandments. Y'all can eat anything you feel like eating. At Mount Sinai, he makes us into a holy nation, which means all that before, you put that away. Now you are becoming what? Born again. When we came into the Torah and we accepted the yoke of the Torah and the yoke of the kingdom, we became born again. One time in the church, we got baptized, we confessed our sin, we accepted Yeshua HaMashiach as our personal Lord and Savior. That was one time being born again. When we took the yoke of the Torah and we began to reject those holy days, reject those, lack of dietary laws, okay, and accepted this identity as being Israel, we were born again. You understand what I'm saying? So you are not who you were 20 years ago. Hallelujah. Ooh. Amen. You got that right. You got that right. You know. And so anyway, all right, we're going to go back to our theme again with this thing with the sin of Sodom and all of that, because first of all, it was part of our Torah portion, okay, this week. And also, let's go to Luke chapter 17, and I'm going to read from verse number 20. I'll read Miriam's Torah portion. All right. Luke chapter 17, starting at verse 20. And when he was demanded of the Pharisees when the kingdom of God should come, he answered them and said, the kingdom of Elohim cometh not with observation. Strong's number 3907. I think that's someone. 3907. We're going to look at that. 3907. Because observation, you're thinking with what you are looking at. Oh, come on now. Page is stuck together. Okay, Strong's number 3907 is the word. Oh, God, this is taking a long time for me to get to these pages here. All right, one more, kid, one more. Okay, 3907. Okay, parateresis, which is let's see, ocular evidence observation or inspection. Okay. Close watching, accurate occupation. It is only used one time, and that's in Luke 17:20. Now, the verb is from the one previous to that. Okay. Which near or close to watch closely. It could be watching closely with sinister intent. All right. Or attentively watching. So, the kingdom of God cometh not with what you are seeing. How many people are looking for the kingdom of God? All right, now, here's what he's saying. You're waiting for an event that's already happened. You understand what I'm saying? Because he goes on to say, neither shall they say, lo here or lo there. Behold, the kingdom of God is within you. Guess what? You're already in the kingdom. Okay? See, people don't discern that. Now, if you are already in the kingdom right now is a place where both good and evil exist until such time as evil is dealt with once and for all. Okay? The kingdom of God is within you, meaning, once again, do we not have dual natures, both good and evil? So it is within us. You are already in the kingdom. Now, understand what I'm saying with that. You're in the kingdom where Yeshua is already king. Too many people are waiting for Yeshua to be crowned king. Yeshua is already king. Why? Because he is God. And we read, there is only one God. You understand what I'm saying? Who is the creator, the king of the entire universe. So you are already in the kingdom. So therefore, if you are already in the kingdom, you are already subject to kingdom laws. Torah is the law of the kingdom. And when you are in the kingdom, now listen to me, you're in the United States, okay? So whether you are, I don't care what your ethnic background is, you are subject to the laws of the United States. You can't come over from Germany and say, I'm only going to obey German laws if you want to live in the United States. So if you are in the kingdom of God, since we are in the kingdom of God, the only laws that apply to us are the laws of the kingdom. Now, if you are obedient to the laws of the kingdom, the laws of man won't have a problem with you unless they conflict with the laws of the kingdom. The laws of the kingdom are always the highest. authority and the final authority. Now, he goes on in verse 22, and he said unto the disciples, the days will come when ye shall desire to see one of the days of the Son of Man, and ye shall not see it. And they shall say to you, see here, or see there. Go not after them, nor follow them. In other words, you're going to desire to see this end time thing coming, and people are going to say, oh my God, this just happened. Okay, the kingdom is coming. The rapture is about to occur. This is the end times. But what did Yeshua just say? Don't go for it. You know why he said don't go for it? Because you're already in the kingdom. Okay, so we see a lot of things happening. Okay, oh, this is a sign of the end times. You're already in the kingdom. There are things that are supposed to happen as a natural progression of being in the kingdom. Okay, so he goes on, verse 24. For as the lightning that lighteth out of one part under heaven shineth unto the other part under the heaven, so shall also the Son of Man be in his day. So, lightning, can you see lightning? Does it go fast or slow? He says, not only are you going to see it, but it's going to be so quick. People are looking for something, thinking there is this progression. He says, in my day, it's going to happen so fast, and everybody is going to see it. Not just a secret few that get raptured up and all that kind of foolishness that we have going on in the church, but everyone is going to see it, and it's going to happen very quickly. All right? But first must he suffer many things and be rejected of this generation. So the generation he was in, was he rejected? Yes. Why did that have to happen first? Because of the prophecies. Once again, Yeshua is the last Adam. There must be the opportunity to do what? Restore all things back to the beginning again. All right? Restore all things back to the beginning again, which gives you an understanding of why he also, we are getting ready. Well, let me not get ahead of myself. And as it was in the days of Noah. So all things must be restored back to the beginning again, right? So if I'm going backwards to the beginning again, where am I going to have to pass through? Lot, Noah, garden. Where do we wind up in Revelation 21 and 22? A new heaven and a new earth, back in the garden. So if we are going back to the beginning, we've got to go back to what? Okay, Lot, Babel, Noah, garden. Okay, so it's important that we understand that. And so he goes, as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it also in the days of the Son of Man, son of Adam. They did eat, they drank, they married wives, they were given in marriage until the day that Noah entered into the ark. The flood came and destroyed them all. Likewise also, as it was in the days of Lot, they did eat, they drank, they bought, they sold, they planted, they builded. But the same day Lot went out of Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone from heaven. What do you see? One thing that is similar, and we're going to go into a lot of similarities. One thing that was similar in the judgment of both, and you don't even have to answer, of Noah and Lot. One time it rained water, the next time it rained fire. Okay? And fire and brimstone from heaven, both of them came from where? The heavenly realm. Okay? And destroyed them all. So there was utter destruction also. Okay? Even thus shall it be in the day when the Son of Man is, let me see, how far do I have to read with this? Verse 37. Son of Man is revealed. In that day, he which shall be upon the housetop, his stuff in the house, let him not come down to take it away. And he that is in the field, let him likewise not return back. Remember Lot's wife. Okay? Not only remember Lot's wife, but remember Noah too. You don't see Noah running out. Oh, I forgot this. Okay. Once that door was sealed, that was it. Okay. Yeah, cell phone charger. Forgot the cell phone charger. Whosoever shall seek to save his life shall lose it, and whosoever shall lose his life shall preserve it. I tell you, in that night there shall be two in one bed, and I purposely left out men because men is in italics, which means it was not part of the original text. There shall be two in one bed, one shall be taken and the other shall be left. Two shall be grinding together, the one shall be taken, the other left. Two shall be in the field, the one shall be taken, the other left. And they asked and said unto him, Where, Lord? Where are they going to be taken, Lord? And he said unto them, Wheresoever the body is, thither will the eagles or vultures be gathered together. So y'all want to be taken? All right. So let's go into some things. We may go a little late. I'm not sure yet. The title of this is going to be Thoughts Higher Than Mine. Thoughts Higher Than Mine, Days of Noah and Lot. Because these are definitely thoughts higher than mine. I tried to go to bed at 10 o'clock last night. It didn't work out. And I kept on waking up with this thought, with that thought. The worst thing you can ever do is ask God a question before you go to bed. And my question really was, why Noah and Lot? Why? Okay, question why. All right, now, one of the things that started this also, in the Tanakh, when Abraham is interceding, he says something. And in the King James, it says, Will not the judge of all the earth do right? But in the Tanakh, it says, Will not the judge of all the earth do justice? And that, all right, that just really blew some things up for me. Because shall not the judge of all the earth do the right thing? But shall he not do justice? Justice is something else. Okay, and the word is justice. Okay, I have here, God, some of the similarities that I'm looking, similarities and differences between the two, because I'm asking the question, why? What is it about these two that Yeshua should make such of a point to talk about them? But the whole thing is, the people he was talking about were very familiar with Lot and Noah and the Torah and all of this, but we aren't. Okay, so why? So one of the similarities, God told both Noah and Abraham in advance what he was about to do to bring punishment. He told Noah, he told Abraham, and if you're thinking of something, just put down the names Noah, Abraham, and Lot. Noah, Abraham, and Lot, because we're going to go back and forth between a lot of that. Now, we know that Noah, when God came to Noah, Noah accepted the verdict. This is the way it is. Me and my family, okay, fine. However, Abraham challenged it. Now, let me say something, and this I'm just thinking of right now. With Abraham, he wasn't going to be part of that. However, with Noah, Noah was. When you're in the middle of something, you start thinking about yourself first, as opposed to everyone else. Now, here is where your purpose comes in mind. Abraham knew that he was supposed to be a blessing to all nations. He was going to be a standard, or what? A role model. Abraham had a national view based upon the word God had given him about what his purpose was going to be. Okay, Noah, once again, hey, God said there's going to be a judgment. Hey, I better hurry up and do whatever it is God says. Me and my family get in the ark, and that's it. All right. Now, another thought. There are those who are looking for judgment because it is deserved. Because of all the wickedness that's going around, they deserve that. How many times do you hear when people hear of something wicked going on, those people deserve judgment? Okay? And let me say something. Our push towards overturning certain laws is because we honestly are so deceived to think that if we overturn those laws, judgment will be stayed. Okay, God is not fooled. He's not fooled. Okay, now, there are those who know judgment is deserved, but will pray for mercy for the sake of the righteous to have an impact on the wicked. And then the question that was asked me, which are you? You have those spouting judgment, judgment, judgment. Okay, it's coming. Then you have those like Abraham that say, wait a minute, there are some righteous in there. For the sake of the righteous, will you not spare? And the whole emphasis behind that is that if the righteous do what they're supposed to do, maybe they can turn some things around. Jonah, go to Nineveh and tell them about their sin. What wound up happening? They turned it around. Okay. When a righteous person appears someplace, listen to what I'm saying. When a righteous person goes someplace, okay, the whole atmosphere of that place is supposed to change because of the sake of the righteous. What does that tell you about Lot? Don't have to answer. Don't have to answer, just something to think about. Thoughts higher than mine. Okay, now, it's all about relationship. Noah did as God commanded him 3 times. Genesis 6:27, Genesis 7, verse 5, Genesis 7:9. God told him 3 times, this is what you're supposed to do. My brain focuses on, God gave you 3 opportunities to say, God, hold up. All right, hold up, to intercede. But Noah didn't. Do you think Noah was the only righteous one? Methuselah was still around. Lamech was still around. There were other righteous. The difference between the two, okay, I'm not mad at Noah or anything, but I'm just talking about the differences because God is saying in the days of Noah and the days of Lot. So you really need to understand. So there will be those who God says are righteous, but they'll be concerned with themselves and not everyone else. There'll be those that God calls righteous that will be concerned. The difference is, are you self-motivated? Noah was very self-motivated. I'm getting ready to destroy all of this. Build an ark and take your family. Okay, God. That's where his focus was. I'm about to destroy this whole thing. Wait a minute, God. Whoa, hold up here. Let's look at what you're doing. It's all about relationship with God. You have that kind of deep relationship, or is it just superficial? All right? Abraham, think about it, had one opportunity and he protested. God came and told him what he was going to do. And Abraham immediately said, hold up here. Wait a minute. Okay? Then he calls upon God's character. Wait a minute. Be it far from you. Shall not the judge of all the earth do justice? Wait, whoa. Let me check myself out. Okay. Okay. Abraham did the right thing according to God. He saw what the right thing was and he did it. Okay. And here's another thing. God said, and I want you to think about this. When God told Abraham, go look out, all that you see is yours. All that you could see. Your descendants will be like the sand of the sea, the stars of the sky. Did Abraham see Sodom and Gomorrah before they were destroyed? Yes, he did. If God says all that you can see is yours, I give it to you. Okay? Abraham is acting as what? Ruler, king. All that you could see. So as that role model, as that blessing, what is he going to do? Intercede for those that are, okay, in the land. Now, I made myself laugh sometimes. Abraham, and here's the whole thing, the difference between Abraham and Lot. Abraham goes to Lot. Okay, look, if you want, choose whichever way. If you want to go to the left, go to the left. If you want to go to the right, go to right. Lot looked at a little slice called Sodom and Gomorrah and saw the peanut butter jelly and everything else, okay, on there. All right. And he went after it because it looked good to his eyes. But let me tell you something. If you understand one thing, I have a thing here. Abraham did not seek to hold on to a slice of bread. See, Abraham said, whichever way you go, it's okay with me. You go this way, I'll go that way. We don't have to fight over this. He did not fight to hold on to a slice of bread. Why? Because he not only owned the factory, he owned the bakery and had the patent on the recipe. Okay? You see, when you understand that and you have that kind of mentality, these small little things that people try to get all up involved with don't matter to you. You don't fight over them. What's yours is yours. If God gives it to you, he gives you the authority to handle it. So Abraham was operating in his authority because God had already told him, as far as you can see, it's yours. So you take dominion. Whichever way he wants to go is fine. Okay? So then I was looking at two things. We have in Genesis days of Noah, okay, Noah walked with God. You remember that in Genesis 6:9? Noah walked with God. But here's something that I had never saw before. Genesis 17:1. God tells Abraham, walk before me. If someone walks before you, they're in front of you. Abraham was a leader. God had his back. You walk before me, I got your back. So listen, is it hard for you to go anywhere when you know who has your back is stronger than who is before you? Hello? Okay? Abraham was a leader. God has his back. He was backed by God. Now, both of them, Noah and Abraham, okay, had encounters with God, first encounters. Noah, however, the first word that Noah hears out of God is, I'm about to destroy this whole place, tear it up and tear it down. And then later on, he goes, oh, by the way, I'm going to make a covenant with you. Okay? You can picture Noah just shaking the creator of that. I'm about to tear this doggone place up and destroy everything because of the wickedness in it. But I'm going to save. Okay? Now, I want you to think about it. Okay? First, he hears of destruction, then about the covenant. How you approach people with God, this is what he was teaching me. How are we approaching the church? Hell, hell, hell. And then if you get saved, you'll be free from hell. So people go and run and jump in the baptistry because you've made them look at God with fear. Fear of personal hurt. As opposed to Abraham, his first encounter, Abraham, I'm about to bless you. I'm going to give you all this. Your descendants will be. Look at the difference. Fear and love. Fear and love. What if we stopped approaching people with hellfire and started showing them the benefits of being in covenant with God? You in covenant and those who are not in covenant. Benefits first. then they understand the reason why God deals with others the way that he does. Okay, so both were told, both Noah and Abraham and even Lot, I am going to destroy. But based upon their initial encounter or contact with God, you can see different results. Noah's first encounter with God, I'm going to destroy this thing. I'm going to make a covenant with you. Abraham's encounter with God, I'm covenanting with you. Remember, he entered into the covenant. We have Genesis chapter 12, but we also have Genesis chapter 15, where he formally enters into the covenant with him, which comes before chapter 18 and 19. Okay? Big difference. With Abraham, it was about covenant and then destruction. With Noah, it was about destruction and then covenant. Two different outcomes, two different approaches. Approach with God can determine somebody's response, how you approach them. Okay? Let me see. For Noah, it was destruction, then covenant, then salvation from destruction. Think about it. Destruction, covenant, salvation from destruction. When you get it in that order, your whole thing is, whew, at least I'll be saved. The rest of y'all going to hell, but I'll be saved, me and my family. Okay? You know, and we approach people that way in the church. You're going to hell, but if you get saved, you'll go to heaven. Come on. God never spoke directly to Lot. He had secondhand knowledge by the angels. Whereas opposed to Noah, God spoke directly to Noah. God spoke directly to Abraham. Lot gets his information secondhand. Okay? Now, remember, we're thinking about this, days of Noah, days of Lot. So how you're getting your information, where you're getting your information from, is also going to determine your response. Okay? Think about it. Lot gets his information about destruction at the last minute when he's about ready to be pulled out. He had no time of preparation. Noah had how much time of preparation? Okay? Okay. Lot had a couple of hours. All right, a couple of hours. Okay. With one, Noah was saved directly by God. Lot was saved because of Abraham. Lot wasn't saved because of his righteousness. The Bible is very clear to say, and God remembered Abraham and then pulled Lot out. So days of Noah, there'll be some directly hearing from God. There'll be others that are getting their information secondhand. All of that is confidence. Who do you have confidence in? Okay, are you going to be prepared? That's why it says in the days of Lot, they're going to be eating, they're going to be drinking, they're going to be married, because judgment is going to come so fast you will have no time to prepare. As opposed to in the days of Noah, you had plenty of time to prepare, but you chose not to. One, you won't have a choice. You'll have to leave everything behind because you didn't prepare. That's why he says we are to watch. That's why he tells us what we are to look for in Matthew chapter 24, Luke chapter 17. He says when this thing happens, it's going to be very fast. You're either prepared or you aren't. You understand what I'm saying? You're either prepared or you aren't. All right. So now, let's see. God's relationship with Abraham and Abraham's relationship with God saved Lot. It's all about relationship. All about relationship. Your prayers for your family can cause God to remember your family no matter where they are. Lot and Abraham were separated. Okay. Abraham had to trust that God was going to bring him out. He had to trust God was going to bring him out. But he also had to trust that Lot wanted to come out. Hello. Come on. Your relationship with your family can make a difference when you are interceding with God, but ultimately it is their choice on whether they want to come out or not. Lot's wife was brought out, but she chose to go back, look back. Yes, that's right. That's right. Now, Abraham was a role model. You shall be a blessing, all will be blessed by you. He was a role model. He was meant to be a role model to all nations. Abraham knew he had continuity in generations because of the promises gave to him. Lot didn't. Remember, he comes out, his daughters say, we're the last ones on earth. You want to know why? Think about it. All right. Who was still around with Abraham? Noah. Noah was still alive. Abraham would have known Noah, who would have given him first-hand information about the flood, not only the flood, but what else? The Tower of Babel, all of that. Terah, his father, would have been first-hand knowledge also. Lot would have gotten his information directly from Abraham, because I think he wasn't born, okay, before Noah died. But I mean, you're getting firsthand. Noah was not telling Abraham any cunningly devised fables. He said, dude, this is the way it is. Okay. All right. This is what happened. All right. So Abraham would have taken that information, and that's also how he approached God, because he's dealing with that information he got from Noah. He knew that if God said, I'm going to destroy it, he's going to tear this sucker up. Okay. It's going to be gone. No ifs, ands, or buts, okay, about that. All right. Let me say, Sodom, remember, God had told Abraham, all nations will be blessed by you. Were Sodom and Gomorrah and them all nations? Yes. Okay. Their blessing was the fact that in spite of their wickedness, because of the intercession of Abraham, if there had been enough righteous, they would have been spared, which literally blows my mind. Because when you understand what was happening in there, okay, they still would have been spared because God's act of mercy, if the righteous are there, a little bit of leaven leavens the whole lump, but we're supposed to be salt. Salt stops the leavening process. Okay? That's why Yeshua says, I don't pray for you to get out of the world. I pray for you to be protected while you're here in the world so that you can do what? Make a difference. Our job is to make a difference. When you go into employment where there are all of these wicked people, God will send you there to make a difference because there are souls there that have this same right as you did to get saved. Okay, let's see here. Thoughts higher than mine. Okay, once again. All right. Moses was another intercessor. Okay, he had the same power as Abraham. How many times did God say, I must destroy all of these people? I'm sick of them. And Moses did what? Remember what you said. All right. So that power of intercession. Jeremiah is another example who gives us an instruction in Jeremiah 29. Pray for the cities you are in. So why? Was Moses an heir of Abraham? So same function. Was Jeremiah an heir of Abraham? Are we heirs of Abraham? Yes. So we can make a difference in days of destruction. Shall not the judge of all the earth do justice? What is justice? Justice means the righteous go free, the guilty or wicked get judged. You understand what I'm saying? That's what justice is. There is no justice when the wicked continue their wickedness at the expense of the righteous. That is not justice. There comes a time when God says enough is enough, and he makes a change. All right? We have the power by nature of our relationship to make a difference in nations. Okay? Isaiah chapter 61 is what a role model is and does. The spirit of Adonai Yahweh is upon me because Yahweh has anointed me to preach the gospel to the poor. He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to preach deliverance to the captives and the recovering of sight to the blind, to set at liberty them that are bruised, and preach the acceptable year of the Lord, and now day of vengeance of our God, to comfort all who mourn in Zion. That's what our job is as a role model, as an intercessor. Okay? Now, in the end times, people will be brainwashed. They will be brainwashed. Okay? Now, Genesis chapter 18, one of the things that is key is that God says about Abraham, he is going to instruct his children and his descendants in the way of Yahweh. That is what our responsibility as heirs of Abraham is to do, to instruct people how? In the ways of Yahweh. Okay. People are going, like I said, to be brainwashed. I want you to think of cancer. He's dealing with me with cancer. Again, cancer starts out very small, and then it communicates to other cells, and then eventually it begins to spread throughout the body, and then it begins to manifest itself in the physical so that all know you have a disease. You understand what I'm saying? Just like with Bozeman. Okay, towards the end, you looked at him and you knew he had cancer because he had that look. People that are in advanced stages of cancer all have a similar look that communicates that the disease is winning. You understand what I'm saying? Unless you do drastic things, cancer's nature is to kill you. Let me tell you what I saw that blew my mind. This nation once had a civil war, right? In that civil war, we have the North against the South. So we have this over here, okay, that was really, really racist. They were racist. We need to stop saying, oh, America ain't a racist nation. Yes, they are. 400 years of slavery. Okay, stop fooling yourself. Okay, with that, you know, we had the seeds of racism. And guess what? We may have burned it, but guess what? We may have flooded it out, but eventually it crops up. A cancer does that. You can do chemotherapy so that the cancer becomes so small you can't detect it, but you leave one cell, it will multiply, and the next time you see it, it's spread throughout the body. So how did we wind up with just this little bit? And when you look at the map now, it's spread all over. Because we refuse to deal with it the way we deal with cancer. We refuse to cut it out. We just want to coexist. You can't coexist with certain diseases because the nature of them is to destroy you. All right, that was kind of passionate there. I'll back again. Let me take a sip on this. Don't get me going. Yeah, take my vitamin. Oh, maybe I need to. I had a little mocha tonics today, so I'll blame it on the mocha. Okay, but we see right now what used to be just in the South and a Southern mentality has gone all over. All right, I'm not telling you any cunningly devised fables. You know it. Okay. Once again, Abraham chosen to be a role model. So are we. Many are called, few are chosen. Okay. Will not the God of all the earth do justice? With justice, you must execute punishment against the wicked. And you must give justice to those who were wronged. And you must give protection for the righteous. So that is why Abraham approaches him that way. Justice. Justice means the wicked will get punished. It means those who were wronged, he will punish those who wronged them, and he will protect the righteous. You understand what I'm saying? That is why your prayer should be, I take everything out of every court here and bring it to that heavenly court and say, Yahweh, will not the judge of all the earth do justice? All right? How long did it take me to say that? Not too long. All right? So what do you expect to see? Those who were doing wickedness, he's going to deal with one way. Those who were wronged, he's going to render judgment against the wicked because of what they did wrong. And the righteous, he will raise up and protect. All right? Then the question last night, why Noah and Lot? Two things they had in common. Flesh had corrupted itself. Similar sins with both. Okay? Now, something to know. Adam was alive when Methuselah was born. Okay? Noah and Lamech, remember Lamech was Methuselah's son. Noah was Lamech's son. So Noah knew Adam. Well, no, he didn't know, but he would have heard from, Methuselah and his father about judgment. So when God comes and says what he says, he thoroughly believes it because guess what? Adam would have told him what happened in the garden. He would have gone down, and told him what happened. Firsthand knowledge. Okay? All right? Noah would have received the message of the garden from his father and grandfather, who received it directly from Adam, who was God's original creation. We don't think about these things. That's why I stand up all night, getting up. Firsthand knowledge of the destruction, for disobedience. Both Noah and Methuselah were considered preachers of righteousness, but they had no results. Days of Noah. You preach, but no results. We're showing people stuff in this Bible, and they look at us like we bumped our heads. And guess what? They're the ones who are in the Bible. That may apply to you, but it doesn't apply to me. We're no longer under the law. Oh, okay. I see how these things are working out for you. Okay. Here's a question. Here's what you need to consider when you consider the righteousness of Lot. What made all those people think they could go to Lot's house and he would hand over those strangers to them? Okay, Lot sat in the gate. He knew everything that went on. And you see in their response, you came to us an alien. Now you want to be our ruler? You've been watching us do this from the time you got here. And now you want to act like our ruler? Think about it. As it was in the days of Noah, there'll be days when those have been watching people do what it is they're doing, that all of a sudden they want to step up and be all righteous and religious. Go somewhere and sit down. Okay, as it was in the days of Lot. Okay, what did Lot do? He held his nose against all the stench that they were doing, but he said nothing to bring correction to them until he had an audience. God was not deceived. If Abraham hadn't prayed for Lot, we wouldn't have that chapter in the Bible. Now, things that are similar. Give me about another 15 minutes, guys. Things that are similar. Number one, you have righteous people. You have Noah. Who is the bridge between Noah and Lot? Abraham. Abraham is always the bridge between Noah and Lot. So days of Noah include Abraham. Days of Lot include Abraham. Who are we? Heirs of Abraham. Guess what? You have left, you have right, you have the center. Okay. You have the righteous people, which are Noah, Abraham, and Lot. And then in each case, days of Noah, days of Lot, you have the wicked. Those have done wicked. Similarities. Number 3, parallel, you have God taking notice. I see what they did over here. The cry of Sodom has come up to me. Okay? So those are 3 important patterns. Next, you start seeing he gives them a warning. Okay? Gives them a warning. They have time for preparation. Lot, go tell your sons-in-laws and your daughters and all. They got to get ready to get up on out of here. He brings destruction, both days of Noah. We're looking at days of Noah, days of Lot. You have a warning given. You have a time of preparation. In one case, it was 100 years. In another case, it was a very short time. Okay? You have destruction, utter destruction done. But you also have the righteous saved. You have salvation. Not only do you have salvation, but you have the righteous doing what? Witnessing the destruction. Abraham saw, Lot saw, Noah saw. Okay, so the righteous witnessed the destruction. Oh God, there goes that rapture. I thought we weren't supposed to be here. Noah and Lot also have another thing in common. After the destruction, they both got drunk and experienced sexual immorality of incest. They both got drunk, sexual abuse with incest. That was a whoa moment, wasn't it? And think of the mentality with Noah, end of world, new beginning. What did Lot's daughters say? The end of all flesh has come before us. We got to make a seed, raise up seed. Very similar. Okay. Another thing, both Lot and Noah only saved their family members. And Lot didn't save all of his. Noah was one who God called right. Lot is one who man called righteous. You see that in 2 Peter. You don't see it, God saying Lot is so righteous. No, it says God remembered Abraham, who he called Abraham righteous. Okay? Both experienced incest in the aftermath and that incest, the product of that incest became Israel's enemies, Canaanites, Moab, and Ammon, which were once again a perversion of the image of God. But this time in each case, see, the first case with Noah, we said the sons of God and the daughters of man, right? This time the image is perverted by who? Man. Geraldine, the devil is not making you do it. Okay. All right. Which means, guys, always remember, you have more to fear from man than you do any devil. God says, after Noah, the heart of man is wicked. Jeremiah says, the heart deceives you. All right. God says, I will not destroy the earth, but the heart of man is wicked. Man will destroy it this time. All right. Wasn't done by the devil. Both times were men's decisions. We see a similarity. Neither Noah nor Lot intercede for others. In fact, Lot says after that, wait a minute, you can't destroy that. Why don't you save this one so I can run to it? Neither Noah or Lot interceded for others. Abraham interceded for the entire region. Have mercy on them. We're heirs of Abraham. That's why I pray for the city. Are there wicked in the city? Yes, but pray for the city. In it, you are going to prosper. Get selfish. In it, you are going to prosper. But everybody else will. God will prosper everyone else. And maybe the goodness of God will lead some to repentance. Lot interceded for a city. Why? For personal reasons. How many people are praying, okay, oh, we need to end this plague because I want to get back to the bars, because I want to go shopping again, because I want to go to the beach. Come on, praying for selfish reasons. But guess what? We are so deceived, we don't think God knows that. We're not praying because we are repentant. We are praying because we are God, you are inconveniencing us. Come on, this is deep today, a little deep, okay? All right, let's see. All right, number 1. Both Lot and Noah found favor. Noah found favor on his own merit, which was Genesis 6:8. Lot found merit because of Abraham. That's in Genesis 19, something or other. I can't read my writing here. Okay, so number 1, you need to find favor. Days of Lot, days of Noah. Whether it be your own merit, your own righteousness, you walking in the way of the Lord, or have a good prayer warrior, okay, who can pray for you. Number 2, the righteous. There were righteous involved. Noah was righteous. Abraham. Lot in the New Testament was called a righteous man. But Lot, we know, was saved because of Abraham's righteousness. So no matter where you go between the days of Lot and the days of Noah, you've got to have an Abraham. You've got to have an Abraham. Number 3, both of them walked. Noah walked with God. God told Abraham, walk before me. And then Lot was dragged out by the angels. I guess you can call that a form of walking. Okay, he was pulled out by the angels. So all 3 of them had some form of walk with God, okay? Number 4, they both experienced destruction. They were told about the destruction ahead of time. We see that with Noah in Genesis 6. We see that with Abraham in Genesis 18. We see that with Lot with Genesis 19, verses 13 and 14, and I think verse 29. Number 5, similarities we're looking at. The righteous were preserved in the midst of destruction. Once again, we see that with Noah. He was told by God. Abraham interceded for the righteous. And with Lot, he begging for himself. Please don't destroy such and such. Let me go over here. Okay? But see, people are very selfish today. Number 6. You see the Bible clear that after the destruction, reproduction. In the days of Noah, the animals. Genesis 7:3. In the days of Lot, it was incest. Lot with his daughters. Parallels or similarities between days of Noah, days of Lot. Continuing. Number 7, rain was used as a means of destruction. Rain from the sky in the form of water, and once in the form of fire. Number 8, we have the righteous protected. Noah, we see that in Genesis 7:16. Get in the ark. Lot in Genesis 19. I'm pulling you out of here. In both cases, it says God remembered. In Noah, Genesis 8:1, God remembered Noah. In Genesis 19, Lot was remembered because of Abraham. God remembered Abraham and pulled Lot out. Okay. Another reason why, think about this. Remember, Lot was basically Abraham's adopted son. He got protection by nature of, oh, you're not hearing me, nature of the law of adoption. Paul talks about the law of adoption. Remember, an adopted child had firstborn rights. That's another reason why Lot was so wealthy. That's another reason why Abraham could say, you go, I'll give you this, and I'll take that. You understand law of adoption? Okay. Both of them, you see, days of Noah and Lot, had mountains as a refuge. Remember, the ark does what? Settles down on Mount Ararat. Genesis 8:4, I think that is, for Noah. And for Lot, he went into the mountains of Zoar. Okay, in Genesis chapter 19. Both of them also included as a sign of salvation in putting out their hand. You see, Noah does what? Puts out his hand for the dove. He puts out the dove. Does the dove come back? Nowhere to lay my foot. Raven doesn't come back because Raven eats dead things. Raven said, man, when they open up a golden corral. Okay. Man, it's a golden corral out here. Dove said, I ain't eating that. Okay. And the dove came back with an olive branch because they're tender. They, I bring this olive branch sitting in these trees, but look at that raven, which makes it even funnier when you think it was ravens that fed Elijah. So God really had to change the nature of that raven. Okay. Now, both of them also had angels to save them. Angels sent to Lot to save them. God saved directly. Noah was saved directly by God. And Lot had angels to save them. Number 12, both Noah and Lot experienced incest, sexual immorality. Remember, all flesh had corrupted itself. That was the reason, part of the reason for the judgment in the days of Noah. Right after that, guess what? There's incest again. So what happens? All flesh corrupts itself. All right. And we're still in that. Let me say something. How old is this Bible? Thousands of years. Thousands of years they've had homosexuality. They've had all of these things. It's written here in the Bible. And God is exacting judgment at a future date. You understand what I'm saying? So when people get this thing, he's going to judge because of thus and so, that he said that nation ain't mine. Okay, eventually they will experience the judgment, but I will give them the opportunity to turn it around first. Okay, now, another thing I noticed, and here's one thing, the Noahic covenant was made in the name of Elohim. Elohim, what did we talk about? God of judgment. Elohim pulls Lot out, not Yahweh. Yahweh is a covenantal name. Okay, Yahweh is a covenantal name. With Abraham, Genesis 15:8, it says Yahweh made covenant with Abraham. But in Genesis, where it says where God, Elohim, made a covenant with Noah. Elohim, remember, creator of the heavens and the earth, all mankind, as opposed to Abraham, Yahweh. Then Moses, who shall I say sent me? The people ain't looking for Elohim. You want to know why? Because Elohim could have been any God. Elohim means a plurality. It could have meant any God. So the Israelites want to know, what is his name? Yahweh. Okay, there we got it. There's Abraham. Okay, now we're dealing with the right one. Okay. So some of the things that we see in common, there's always a hero. That's the righteous. There are always the wicked. There is Yahweh, who is witness to both. Okay, both in the days of Noah and the days of Lot. There is judgment enacted by both the heavens and the earth. See, days of Lot, days of, when he gives those similarities, it's going to be the same with us. We're seeing that now. In Ezekiel, 4 sore judgments, remember. Okay? Okay. Righteous, saved with Lot because of Abraham, not because of their own righteousness. That intercessor. We need to be intercessor. All right? We see Noah did not intercede with God. However, Abraham did intercede on behalf of the righteous. He didn't say spare the wicked. He said spare the righteous. Justice judges the wicked. Shall not the judge of all the earth do justice? So his prayer was for the righteous. Moses' prayer was for the righteous. God said, okay, I'll agree. But them that did that, I am going to destroy. Okay. Another one, we see Lot negotiated for himself. Okay, all about me. Both Noah and Lot represent total destruction and potential rebirth. Okay. Noah, total destruction, rebirth of man. They each experience sexual immorality. Now, with Lot, however, it wasn't total destruction. It was destruction of a region, but because of fake news, alternative facts, we had the incest that created two nations that became the enemies of Israel. Okay? So depending upon who you're listening to, the voice of who you listen to, okay? With each time, okay, we see with the days of Noah, the earth was renewed. However, with the days of Lot, those cities were destroyed, never to be rebuilt again. We have both renewal and we have total destruction. And that ends my similarities between the days of Lot, days of Noah. I think I'm kind of finished with that for a while. We may revisit it again, but I finally got that out of my system, looking at what we look at today. Okay, so I'm going to take a minute before we end. Ed, give me an impression of today, something that you learned, something that was drop the mic moment.
In the comparison between both of them, and there was one big point, but I can't recall it. So, but yeah, just a lot of interesting stuff, and how important the days of Noah and the days of Lot are to Yeshua and to our times now.
Yeah.
Because Yeshua talks about those, just as it was in the days of Lot and the days of Noah. So we should be aware of such things right now.
All right.
Right.
You have a little more understanding of those particular days?
Yes.
And even
Yes.
how they
Yes.
look.
Yes.
Okay, today.
Yes. Right.
Apply today.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In the mic to
Right, right.
Lena.
Just how the relationship with one person will determine what God does for you. running around with the wicked, you know what happens.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I like the comparison about the days of Lot and the days of Noah, and just showing that type of relationship that we can have with Yahweh, just like what Abraham had. And to really be able to sit down and you can understand, if you have that type of relationship, you can speak and negotiate like Abraham did on the people's behalf. And also the incest part with those nations became Israel enemy. I never seen that like that. So, that was interesting as well. But it was a lot, just showing too that eventually, when Yahweh come in and give his judgment, the righteous is going to be preserved. And like Pastor said also, that we're the salt of the earth. So we are the people who stop that leavening from growing and everything. So we have to, do our part as well, and not just have the spirit of Lot and saying it's just me, me, me. So, it was so much. If I tell everything I got, we'll need another 2 hours.
You brought up a point. I'm going to go to the back in a minute. In Daniel chapter 12, chapter 12, verse 9, the angel says to Daniel, he said, "Go thy way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed until the time of end. Many shall be purified and made white and tried, but the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand." Okay, so there are going to be trials. The biggest trials are going to be between who? The righteous. Many shall be purified and made white. Who's purified? The priesthood. We are a nation of priests. Okay, we also need to understand that there are going to be many that are tried and they fall. Okay, also, what makes the difference? Yeshua teaches that many are going to come in that day saying what? "Lord, Lord, have we not done all of these wonderful things?" And he's going to say, "Get away from me. Who are you again? Depart from me, ye that work lawlessness." Okay, lawlessness. So what is the key? The key is knowing in the end times, the enemy makes war against the woman and the remnant of her seed that do what? Keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Yeshua HaMashiach. Remember, in the split nation, northern, okay, which was Israel, southern, which was Judah. Remember, the northern one, they created a different religious system based upon idolatry and their own purified priesthood. Oh, hey, come on. That's another conversation. I'm done. Okay. That's another conversation that we need to have and understand. Okay, that will go on. All right? Because guess what? That's part of the days of Lot and Noah too. Remember, Noah comes out. We have Tower of Babel. What happened? Another religious system. Okay, another religious system. Okay, so anyway, all right, Ed, here, can you give him the mic so that he can close us out?
Father God, we just thank you for this day. We've come as you've commanded us, Father. We've gathered in the synagogue on the Sabbath where Moses is read. Father, be with us in this time of great turmoil and crisis, Father. We bring peace, Father, to this land. Peace, first of all, in your holy seat of Jerusalem. Peace, Lord, in this our Babylon. Watch over us here, protect us here, guide us, Lord. Teach us in your word. Show us in your word things we've never seen before, Lord. Keep us always confident that you are our God, you are our Savior, you are our Lord, that all things are in your hand. Father, you hold the hearts of the king in your hand. You turn that king's heart the way you would have it to go. We just thank you now for a new era in America, Father. We pray for peace and prosperity going forward. We pray that we might seek friendship and love between each other, and that we might again become a nation that goes out to do good to all the world. Bless us, Lord. Keep us, Father. Give us commands that we may receive your blessings. Guide us. Watch over all of those, Lord, who are still going through the perils of the pandemic and economic downturn. Lord, we just thank you, Father, for a new beginning and a new day, Lord, as we go forward studying your Torah. In Yeshua's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right, I'll take